My most recent one is Road Trip with a Vampire, and the title kind of functions as a summary pretty well. It's about a witch who has powers, but she's keeping them kind of on the down low because she wants to have sort of a more normal life amongst regular human lifespan people. And then one day, out of the blue, a vampire with amnesia shows up on her doorstep and hijinks ensue. So I've always loved vampire stories, but particularly like Buffy the Vampire Slayer was like a huge I was a huge fan of that. Sort of like a campier look at creatures who, in most media representations are very dark and creepy and scary. And during the pandemic, I'd written creatively, really just kind of as a side hobby for many years. And during the pandemic, I was reaching a point in my life where I was sort of at a crossroads. I was like, I've always wanted to write a novel, or I've written but hadn't done anything with them. It felt very now or never-ish in the way I think a lot of people felt about things during the pandemic. And at that time, I was really I was enjoying the show called What We Do in the Shadows, which is a very it's kind of a niche show where it's a fake documentary, or I guess a mockumentary, about a found family of vampires living on Staten Island who've been tasked with taking over the world. And it doesn't really go according to plan, and each episode is just ridiculous. And it's very much a fish out of water sort of comedy, with these like ancient vampires trying to navigate convenience stores in Staten Island and such. And in my pandemic era, sitting in my house, we had just relocated, didn't know a soul, brain space. I was like, wow, wouldn't it be funny if I took this vibe, this theme, and had it be a romance, because I also have always loved romance. And so that's how My Roommate is a Vampire came to be. It just kind of mashed up things that I was really excited about. And that's the book I went for it with when I decided that the time in my life had come where I was going to take the plunge or I was never going to. Zelda is mentioned in the second book. And in the epilogue of the second book, it's heavily implied that she has quite a bit to do with some of the events that happened in the second book, but behind the scenes. And um, my team at Berkeley really wanted this book to have this to be a three-book series. And so and I did too. And we agreed, and I mean, I think at this point, the world was really, really fun, wanted to stay in it, but oh, I'm a human woman, and oh my God, the guy's a vampire. I had no idea. Like, I'd done that twice. And so like that kind of wouldn't work so well a third time. And so I had the idea that like it would be really interesting to have both of them be powerful. The conflict wouldn't be, oh my God, you're a vampire, I'm a human, but would rather be the conflict would arise from events that happened in the past. Sort of say it kind of vaguely. To just have it be part of the same silly universe, but to throw just completely different dynamics into the mix. So, like the first two books, as I said, the entire conflict is basically, oh, I'm a vampire, or like, oh, I'm a human, and you're a vampire. It's like the conflict is kind of obvious, where it comes from. The second book, they have the same immortal lifespans. But she has a lot of baggage about having been kind of wild and crazy in her immortal youth and needing to like get away from all of that, and really wants to reinvent herself as being, this quiet, quote unquote normal human posing person, and wants to leave the paranormal aspects of her life behind her. And then this vampire with amnesia because, obviously, shows up and he very much needs her help because he doesn't know who he is. And so it really like the each sort she has to confront like what it means to actually have these powers because she can't run away from them forever. And then it's foreshadowed pretty early on. He can't remember who he was, but he was probably a pretty bad dude. And him sort of coming to terms with having maybe been a bad person in the past. So like I feel like this book I think that its themes are mirrored more in other non-paranormal books, more so than my first two books, where like the conflict is entirely human vampire, uh-oh, that won't work. So yeah.